Love Me If You Dare is a 2003 released romantic comedy drama directed by Jan Samuel.
It's a story of childhood friends Sophie and Julien who meet when they're about 8 years old. They both sort of have traumatic childhoods. Julien's mother is terminally ill, and Sophie is from sort of Polish descent. She gets teased a lot and bullied by the other school children. So they first meet, in the street outside a school bus where she's been pushed down and all her books are all over the place, and he helps her pick them up. And his mother's just given him this tin. It's not worth anything, but to him it's treasured because she's given it to him. He gives it to her to cheer her up, but he says because it is this treasured item, he says he would like it back every once in a while. So she says, "Oh, if you want it back that much, prove to me how much you want it. Show me." It was like I said, they're outside a school bus, and all the other school kids are on the bus, and the driver is also helping her pick up her books. So Julien goes and turns off the handbrake, and the bus starts to roll down the hill. And from there starts this series of dares that they give each other. So basically, whoever has the tin gives the other person a dare, and then they swap. So this goes on and on. And at school, they're doing all sorts of unruly things, swearing in class, and they're constantly getting taken to the headmaster's office, who just doesn't know what to do with them because they just won't. They don't care about being told off, basically. And then this carries on into adulthood. This dare business, it becomes more and more outrageous to the point where it's kind of affecting their lives, really. The first time we see them as adults, they've got exams, and basically Sophie's exam is messed up because she's been dared to do something while she's taking this exam. We sort of skip forward a few years. They kind of are falling in love. I think Sophie more than Julien, but they're kind of falling in love, but then they push each other away, and they kind of want to continue with this dare thing, but then they don't. We follow them, and it jumps forward a few years every so often.
Dark romantic comedy, I think.
Mm.
Or comedy, romantic comedy is not a romantic comedy, but is a romantic comedy.
I mean, it's not. It's more dark than comedic, and it's not even that romantic. I didn't think either.
No, it's. I think what I got from it, but the end of it. So I've probably said. So this is kind of following on our Valentine's month. I hope you had a nice Valentine's Day wherever you were last week. And so we kind of thought we'd do, some alternative romantic comedies. And so, yeah, this one was suggested. This was actually suggested by my girlfriend. I'd never seen this before. She really likes this film. And she doesn't actually know what I thought of it. I said, you're going to have to wait. So I did enjoy it. It's strange. It's very strange. It's very odd at times. But I think I got it. I think. It's very twisted and it's very dark. But what I got from it was that it felt to me like it's like the antithesis of a rom-com. But it kind of felt like it was trying really hard to not be a romantic comedy, but in the process it kind of was a romantic comedy, but then at the end of it, it wasn't a romantic comedy. And that makes the whole film feel quite childlike, which is kind of, I think, what it's going for. It's about two children who can't grow up. They come from quite traumatic backgrounds, and they start playing this game with each other, which obviously follows on into adulthood, but they still can't get past. I mean, he lost his mother, so there's a bit of that in there. So he kind of lost his childhood a little bit. And you never quite see where she's. She's from this Polish heritage, and she says very early on she never wants him coming round to her home. No. And so they kind of both have had kind of slightly dysfunctional. You don't ever see her family. She's kind of brought up by her sister, but that's because her parents only speak Polish. So her sister kind of comes to the school when she's got into trouble. And so you see a little bit of her family, but it's more about his family life, you see. But they've never really grown up. So the whole film is kind of, it's like a fantasy. It's like a weird fantasy where they've never grown up.
And they just get a kick out of torturing each other, basically.
They get a kick out of torturing at each other. I mean, the whole film is kind of filmed in a kind of fantasy where there's a few dream experiences. But then I suppose in a kind of French tradition, it becomes quite surreal. It's quite surreal at times. What did you think?
I enjoyed it to start with. When they're kids and they're playing these silly dares on each other, That's what kids do. They're not bothered about being told off or anything like that. And they obviously are drawn to each other because of different traumas that they've had. And that's nice and it's sweet and yeah, you're kind of rooting for them. But as soon as they're adults, they just seem a bit cruel and nasty. And there's nothing to really. I didn't really care whether they got together or not because they didn't really seem to care that much. So it's like, what is the point of this? And then we get these massive gaps where they don't see each other. Why do you care? I mean, if you're that much secretly in love or whatever, what are you doing with your life? Why are you living a lie, basically, just because of this stupid dare thing? And it just started to get on my nerves a bit, to be honest. Well, because they just weren't really likable, particularly Julien. Sophie was definitely the one who seemed to want to get together. He wasn't really that bothered. I mean, there's a scene where they go, again, they've reunited after a few years, and he takes her to dinner and starts to talk about marriage, and she's like, all excited, and it turns out he's asking her to be
witness.
Yeah, be a witness at the wedding. It's like he strung her along for this whole dinner. And it's like, what is wrong with you? It's like psychotic. And that's what I got from it. They're both just psychotic. This is the other thing. They don't care about what effect their stupid game has on anybody else. His father, he's obviously distraught at losing his wife. Their game carries on. And, when they're grown up, his father is still incredibly frustrated with it. Well, he just doesn't care. He's like, that's it. I don't want to see you anymore. You're not my son anymore. Yeah, they just don't seem to care. And obviously they have other partners. Who cares about them? They've only spent years of their lives with these people. I'll sod it, It's all a dare. From that perspective, it's not really romantic at all. It's just nasty and horrible.
No, yeah, like I said, I kind of like the antithesis of the romantic comedy. It's kind of the anti. It's like the anti-romantic comedy. Yeah. They're very obnoxious. They're very like, yeah. I don't know. I think I kind of agree with you. I think when it starts out, it's when they're children. It's kind of you go with it, but then maybe underneath all that, there is more going on than. Like I said, it's quite fantastical. This film. It feels quite like a fantasy. There is maybe more under its surface going on that maybe we didn't quite see. I mean, maybe I think it's about childhood. It's about loss. There is that in there, but it's just.
But does suffering some sort of. Well, I guess suffering childhood trauma can turn you into an arsehole.
Well, yeah. I mean, it can lead you into a life of misery. I think in many.
Does that make a good film? Not if it's going to be sold as a rom-com. Or you're supposed to be rooting for this couple.
I think it's odd because obviously its English title is Love Me If You Dare. Its French title is it Jeux d'enfants. So it is actually, its literal translation is Children's Games or Games of Children. So obviously its British title its English title is odd because it's not its actual title. So it is more about children's games and about being children and not really growing up and having this crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's odd. It feels, I mean, to me, that it kind of, I found that it felt like it was a really interesting idea, but the director didn't quite have the vision to take it all the way. He also did this thing where he filmed it in this colour tone that Amélie is mostly famous for.
It made me think of Amélie straight away, yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Amélie. I really enjoyed Amélie, and I love Jean-Pierre Jeannot's work. I think he's an incredible filmmaker. You don't see much from him nowadays, actually. But this is not Amélie. And it's maybe he's saturated in those weird colours that kind of... In Amélie it works, because in Amélie it makes Paris look like you've stepped back in time a little bit. There's other things going on in here. I thought this kept reminding me of Trainspotting. There's a bit in there where the main character, Julien, does a voiceover. The last line he says is "better than life," which is quite like "choose life," at the end of the famous speech in Trainspotting. There's also a scene in here which is a little bit reminiscent of Trainspotting as well. So I just felt like it was picking at lots of other films and kind of putting it in. I thought it was shot well. There's some nice camera movements. The cinematography is quite interesting.
Oh, it definitely looks very nice, yeah.
I think they're so obnoxious and they're so hateful. You don't really have anything to latch onto.
Yeah, and if there's plenty of films, about mobsters or bad guys or whatever, where you still, are invested in the story and what happens to these people. Whereas this, because they were kind of just doing this to themselves for no real reason, I don't really care. Knock yourself out, but don't put me through it as well. And then the ending, I won't say what happens at the end, but it's got like a double ending. It's like, choose an ending. Don't do an ending and then do another ending, and then like, well, which one's the real ending? I mean, obviously, one of the endings ties into the opening of the film. So is that the real ending? And the other ending is what? You've got two ideas for an ending and you can't decide how to do it. Oh, I'll just do both of them. No, pick one. Give us a proper ending.
But then maybe that's what it is. Because again, I kept thinking the whole time, I felt, or afterwards, after I'd watched it, I kept feeling like it was fantasy merging with reality. And there's the end, one of those endings could have been real, and then the other ending could be fantasy. But also they could be the other way round. The other one could be the fantasy. And so I think, personally, they both worked as being fantasy and reality endings. I think there's more going. I think there's more going on in this film that maybe I didn't quite get.
I don't know. I think maybe you're giving it too much credit.
I don't know, no, because I thought the performances were really good, and obviously Marion Cotillard has gone on since now. She's actually married to Guillaume Canet.
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, they got together. I think they'd known each other since like the 90s, and then they married. Oh no, they're not married. They're just together. But like 2007, they got together. So they weren't together when they made this film, but they are together now. And I thought there's clearly a kind of a spark there between them, even though there wasn't one in reality at the time they made this film. And I like both their performances. I thought he was really interesting. He turned up in The Beach. Danny Boyle, obviously, the Trainspotting link there as well. And she, Marion Cotillard has gone on to have a huge career, also working with Leonardo DiCaprio herself in Inception, and she went on to do La Vie en Rose, which of course the song itself is also featured in this film, and that song's also featured in Inception, isn't it? She's got this kind of strange link with Edith Piaf, it seems.
The performances are fine, the music's nice, the shot interestingly, and it's paced. The pacing was okay, I was never bored. I mean, it's only about 90-something minutes, isn't it? So it's not particularly long.
No.
But, it never dragged or anything.
Not at all, no.
But yeah, they're just the sort of main meat of the plot, these characters. By the end, I was like, I don't really care whether you get together or not. It just doesn't, you could have done it years ago if you just stopped pissing about with this stupid game.
I preferred its look, and I liked its visuals, and I think I was reading that Jan Samuel, the director, he was an animator. He was a storyboard artist and an animator as well. And I think that shows, because I think visually this is really interesting. That there's a couple of transitions here between scenes, especially between, like you said at the beginning that the film will occasionally, it jumps quite a number of years, and the way they pass time from one era to another is quite clever. There's a scene in a bed, for instance, where they're both children. She's having a sleepover around his house, and she's in bed, and then the camera pans down to him the other side when he's a child, and then it pans back and she's now an adult. I loved the visuals. I thought there were some really interesting visuals. The way the camera there's lots of nice camera movements with cameras coming in from high and moving in strange angles. So I have, I don't have this on. This is my girlfriend's DVD. She lent me this. This will break. I wonder. Yeah, we should get her on the channel and ask her, because she really likes this film. But it'd be nice now to actually. Well, I can speak to her and actually talk to her about it. Yeah, so I've got her DVD. I think you bought it on DVD.
Yeah, I picked it up on eBay. It was pretty cheap.
You got the same one? Because I have to say, it's got some special features. I don't know if you watched them. They're all a bit odd. Did you watch them?
I don't think mine had any special features. Oh, I don't think it did.
Oh, well, mine... Where did you get...
Perhaps you got a different version.
Mine's got special features.
Show me. I can't see. Show me. Put it into the... Put it into the Skype camera.
Oh, yeah. That's my camera.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, mine hasn't got... Oh, I feel gypped now. I haven't got any on mine. Who released yours? Mine is by some company called UGC Films UK.
Mine's Pathé.
Oh, right. Oh, well, there you go, then. I got some shitty version with no extras. Were they worth having?
I wouldn't worry too much, because I have to say, so you got a making of the dream sequence, some outtakes, and an interview with the director and the two leads in the film. But the interview is literally them talking about a scene near the end of the film, but it's them complaining about what they're having to do in that scene, and that's it. I mean, it literally goes on for like half a minute, and they didn't speak about the film at all. And I have to say, because I came away from the film feeling a little bit like, I came away from the special features with not any more than that. You know, I thought, well, maybe I could get a little bit about this film, find out a little bit about the film or the plot or about the director. Nothing. It was literally just half a minute of them kind of complaining about the scene that they were having to film. I found that very strange. So the special features were like a dead fish. I don't know. It was all a bit weird. Yeah, peculiar film. I mean, definitely, if you've seen it, let us know what you think of it. I think I liked it, but it very strange. It didn't always work. And like I said before, during it, I think, the director maybe lacking a little bit of vision for where the film went. That's kind of my take on it.
I mean, yeah, I didn't hate it.
No, I didn't hate it. No,
I came away sort of, not really bothered. It didn't sort of, I didn't. Yeah, as I've said several times, didn't really care what happened at the end.
So that was Love Me If You Dare. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, let us know in the comments below.
Hit the subscribe button over there and don't forget to hit the bell for notifications. There's another video to check out over here. Come and find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And join us next week for a video.